Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post. Snow White UK premiere has been cancelled over Disney's fears of anti-woke backlash. And not just anti-woke backlash. There's a whole Israel-Palestine kind of debate going on here. Disney is in for anywhere from $270 million to $300 million or more. We'll never know the exact numbers. You can look at published numbers, but the numbers are always under the control of the company putting out the projects. From The Telegraph, how Disney's Snow White remake became a $270 million headache. So they will lose money on this movie no matter what. There's no way they're making back the money they spent. The question is whether or not they can get through this movie without having more problems pop up, such as even having to worry about security in their theme parks. That's how bad it is. And that's not from the anti-woke people. That's from people who have held violent protests relevant to the controversy going on in the Middle East. From the Daily Mail, Disney scraps plans for Snow White UK premiere in an attempt to avoid anti-woke backlash to the controversial movie. And remember, Rachel Zegler with her big mouth almost got pulled off this movie in the past. The recent past. From DailyMail.com, Rachel Zegler was nearly cut from Snow White as Disney executives fear controversial Trump comments could harm the film. That was from November 2024. And this movie was being targeted to open between $65 and $85 million. Not great for the budget of this movie and all the reshoots they had to do, but it still was putting them in a better position than they actually wound up in. Soon after this, like a week after that projection, from Screen Rant, Rachel Zegler's Snow White box office projections now up to $22 million lower than already a mediocre outlook. From The Hollywood Reporter, Rachel Zegler's Snow White tracking for $53 million box office opening. And the UK is upset about this. Not the entire country, but people in the UK. From gbnews.com, this journalist says, complete nonsense. Furious fight breaks out over Disney canceling UK premiere due to anti-woke backlash. This is why you just focus on making something really great and you listen to the audience so that whatever you're doing has the concern and the validation of the people who are actually interested in your historic classic franchise. Because nobody was interested from the audience, from the customer base, from the fans, from the people that loved Disney and Snow White. Nobody was interested in seeing this movie come out. Not this way. Even just doing a live-action adaptation of an animated classic is risky and is not something that fans would have stood for a couple of decades ago. Now people have accepted it, but you'd better honor the original movie. Not like what they did with The Little Mermaid, which also did not do well. And whether that was because it was poorly cast or not put together well, the negative narratives because they decided to do a race swap in that movie that was completely inappropriate dragged down the movie. There's always two sides to a narrative. One side picks one narrative, and that has an effect on the public. The other side can pick another narrative, and unless you've got something to stand up to the criticism of the inappropriate race swaps and ridiculous things they've been doing in these movies, there's no way to get a positive vibe going for the product you're trying to sell. The great art that is supposed to be Snow White. And without that positive buzz and without that interest, you're always going to have a bomb. And that goes for whatever creative product you're trying to produce and sell to the public. If there's no excitement, you're not going to do the numbers that you want to do. From the Daily Mail, Disney scraps plans for a Snow White UK premiere. As one of the most expensive films of the year, it would only be right for Disney to roll out the red carpet for its forthcoming Snow White. But the Daily Mail reveals that bosses are refusing to hold a star-studded premiere in the UK for the Snow White movie over fears of backlash over woking it up. And, of course, the debate between Israel and Palestine, that controversy. What's going on in Gaza should have absolutely nothing to do with selling a classic franchise to the public, but now it has a lot to do with it. Despite the release date not being until later this month, the film has already been lambasted for having a Snow White played by Latin actress Rachel Zegler and not including the 7 dwarfs in the title. What would usually be a major media event full of lights and cameras for a $270 million live-action remake of the 1937 animated film, instead there will be no celebration on British soil in an attempt to avoid the anti-woke backlash. Alternatively, there will be a handful of tightly controlled press events. An insider told the Daily Mail, Disney are already anticipating an anti-woke backlash against Snow White and have reduced the media schedule to just a handful of tightly controlled press events. Quote, that is why they have taken the highly unusual step not to host a London premiere for the film and are minimizing the amount of press questions that Rachel Zegler gets. Because Rachel Zegler can never say the right thing. What's the right thing? You sit down with media professionals and you ask them, what's the right thing to say? And they say, here's what's going to help the film and your career while we're at it. And they give you talking points, and then you repeat those talking points. It's literally that easy. No one actually cares what the actress for Snow White thinks about war, Donald Trump, people of specific races. They don't want to hear that. So you just say positive things that you're told to say about why you're excited to be in this movie. That's all you have to do. But it's too much for Rachel Zegler, so they can't trust her to do that. And let's also say this is not a reflection on intelligence. She's clearly intelligent enough to be able to operate as an actress. She reads scripts. She remembers lines. It's not like she makes up everything she normally says. She also appears frequently to the satisfaction of the directors that she works with and other professionals in character. So she should be able to do this, yet she cannot. This is also being done in context with understanding that Captain America Brave New World recently did really poorly in the UK. So whatever it is that Disney does with Snow White in the UK, they can only lose money. If they manage to not destroy the international market for this film, they're way ahead of the game. But if they do destroy the international market for this film and create even more of a controversy, they're going to have to worry about security at their theme parks for the next, year or two. And if you consider it for just a little bit, it's enough to get Disney in trouble with other movies if there's negative energy against Disney expressed in their theme parks through more protests. This could be very bad for Disney. Well beyond the failure of one movie, which really this movie should never have been coming out. They should have stopped this movie, taken the loss, written it off. They can certainly afford it. They're risking their whole brand over this. And even the safety of people in their theme parks. Not worth doing. Disney's decision comes after Snow White actress Rachel Zegler was labeled a walking PR disaster for Disney, having made controversial comments about her role. Yeah, she did that too. In a 2022 interview, Rachel Zegler called the original animated film dated and critiqued elements like Snow White's relationship with Prince Charming as a guy who literally stalks her, as well as calling the film weird. An earlier interview also saw Zegler criticizing Disney's problematic portrayal of princesses and women in positions of power, while noting how the film scared her as a child, also only added fuel to the fire. Beyond her comments, Rachel Zegler's role as Snow White was met with further controversy in light of Disney's recent push for more culturally representative storytelling. Zegler, who is half Colombian and half Polish, was questioned as to why she was granted the role when Snow White is a character who hails from Germany, because Snow White came from Germany. That was the origin of the story. And that's a question that would have been easy to understand the right answer to give. Not necessarily from Rachel Zegler to know what the studio wanted her to say when they asked that question, because it was the studio's decision to cast her. It wasn't her decision to cast her. So it's the studio's answer that she ought to be giving them. Whenever anyone asked that question, after originally being postponed for its 2024 release date due to the 2023 strikes, Snow White is now set for release on March 21st, 2025. When the first Snow White trailer dropped, it quickly racked up more than 1 million dislikes, as it also revealed the overuse of CGI. The movie has also managed to upset David Hand, whose father worked on the original animated classic, which won Walt Disney an Oscar. Hand said that the duo would be turning over in their graves as the original was made with good taste. Anti-Israel and pro-Palestinian activists have also called for a boycott of the movie over Disney's casting of Israeli actress Gal Gadot as the evil queen. Because Gal Gadot is an Israeli and she served in the Israeli Defense Forces. Gadot, who starred in the Wonder Woman blockbuster movies, has publicly advocated for Israel over the years. Meanwhile, Zegler promoted the film's new trailer with a Free Palestine flag. So no matter which side you're on of that particular conflict, you have reason to not approve of this movie. A premiere of this movie will, however, take place on American soil with Ms. Zegler, Ms. Gadot, Andrew Burnap, who plays the Prince Charming character, are all expected to attend. They could have gotten rid of Rachel Zegler and recast this movie, or even more wisely just said, okay, we spent some money on this. We see it's not worth it. We don't want to violate what we had with the original classic. And Disney could have done that. They could still do it. They're not going to do that. They're going to release the movie and take the abuse. But in another universe, they could have done the right thing. DailyMail.com said this: Rachel Zegler was nearly cut from Snow White. Rachel Zegler's reputation as a loose cannon meant she was nearly axed from her lead role in Snow White, according to sources who claim that Disney bosses have viewed the actress as a nightmare. The 23-year-old starlet plays the titular role in the live-action remake, due to be released in March of 2025. While Rachel Zegler's strong opinions have sparked backlash in the past, her latest outburst seems set to derail the release after she publicly slammed Donald Trump voters who have now vowed to boycott the film. Because all the other comments weren't enough, we needed to know what she had to say about Donald Trump voters. Though the young actress has since issued an apology for hoping that Trump voters and Trump himself never know peace, the wave of fury sparked by her comment has left the studio bosses furious that it's too late to remove her from the project. Speaking exclusively to DailyMail.com, an insider explained, quote, they would love to be able to tell her to stop talking, but it's simply too late. But it's not too late to cancel some premieres, like the UK premiere. Quote, executives had talked about removing Rachel from the role several times when it was shooting in 2022. The insider added, she's a loose cannon and caused issues during the production because she didn't agree with how the film plot strayed from the classic movie's plot. Noting that the actress could simply have turned down the role if she had so many issues with the plot, the insider continued, quote, she read the script. If she didn't like it then, she should have not taken it. It wasn't until after the film was finished that she really started creating drama. Quote, she's been a nightmare, but there's nothing they can do to control what she says. Everyone is well aware of how difficult she is. And here's what the Disney executives have been thinking. As much as people think that her recent comments and controversies will hurt the film, it's not likely the case. If anything, it generates more publicity and attention to the film, which leads to increased ticket sales. The film is Snow White, and it could really sell with anyone in the lead. Well, that's not the right kind of thinking, because she's really damaged this film. The issue is this: when you think of a property, when you think of a brand, immediately what's the response? Do you think negative or do you think positive? People go towards positive. They don't go towards negative. There isn't controversy like, wow, I can't wait to see how she actually performs in this movie, so I'll go see the movie. And we've seen this again and again with these movies. There's either a positive buzz where your friends are excited to see it, not because of controversy, because they're excited to see what everyone is positively talking about and laughing about or excited about, or if the art is really powerful, like really moved about, and then people want to see what everyone else is going to see. When the tracking is bad for the movie, and then the bad tracking goes $22 million worse for the opening weekend, that's not a good sign. The executives know this, but they bought into her being in this movie and doing this project, and now they're stuck with it. Following Donald Trump's resounding election win, Zegler shared a series of devastated messages with her 2.3 million followers. She said this, quote, I find myself speechless in the midst of this. May Trump supporters and Trump voters and Trump himself never know peace. And then she went on to say, another 4 years of hatred, leading us towards a world I do not want to live in, leading us towards a world that will be hard to raise my daughter in. Then she continued, there's a deep sickness in this country, shown in the sheer amount of people who showed up for this man who threatens our democracy. It is terrifying the number of people who stand behind what this man preaches. Zegler described the support for Trump as a foolish subscription to a false sense of security, masculinity, intelligence, patriotism, and humanity. She then took aim at billionaire Elon Musk, who became one of Trump's most outspoken and generous donors throughout his campaign. Quote, get off of Elon's app, she said. I don't use that app for a reason. He helped get that man elected, and you're giving him the business. Hours after her comments went viral, Zegler returned to Instagram to publicly apologize, admitting, I let my emotions get the best of me. Quote, hatred and anger have caused us to move further and further away from peace and understanding, and I am sorry I contributed to the negative discourse. There's no question this movie is not going to do well. The question is how much damage it will do to the Disney brand. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.